Jake Martinez had driven 3 hours to the Hendersons' farm to look at a dairy cow. Just one cow. A simple transaction that should have taken 30 minutes, maybe an hour if old man Henderson wanted to chat about the weather and complain about government subsidies. He hadn't expected to find a crying alien girl in the barn. She was huddled in the corner behind the feed bins, her orange skin almost glowing in the dim light filtering through the barn slats. Blonde hair, an odd contrast against her vibrant skin, hung in tangled waves around her shoulders. She looked young, maybe 16 in human years, though Jake had no idea how Xynthian aging worked, and she was sobbing like her heart was breaking. "Hey," Jake said softly, stopping a respectful distance away. "You okay?" The girl's head snapped up, amber eyes wide with fear. She scrambled backward, pressing herself against the wall. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jake said quickly, raising his hands. "I'm just here to look at a cow. Jake Martinez. I run a small farm about 3 hours south of here." She stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "Please," she whispered, "please don't tell them you saw me." "Tell who?" "Anyone, everyone." She wiped at her eyes with shaking hands. "They're looking for me, they'll send me back." Jake's stomach tightened. He'd heard stories about alien refugees, about the bureaucratic nightmares that came with interspecies immigration law. Back where? To Xynth, to marry him. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "But I can't go back, not tonight, not when her voice broke. "My mom dies tonight." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. He moved closer slowly and crouched down to her level. "What do you mean, dies tonight?" "She's sick, terminal, the doctors said. They said she has maybe 12 hours. The girl pressed her hands against her face. "I've been running for 3 days. I stole a transport pod, crashed it 2 miles from here. I was trying to get to the hospital in Denver, but I don't know how. I don't know anything about Earth. I don't even know if I'm going the right direction." "Denver's about 40 miles north of here," Jake said quietly. "What's your name?" "Kira." She looked at him with desperate eyes. "My mom's name is Sierra. She's at Denver Memorial. She came to Earth 5 years ago, brought me with her. She wanted a better life for us. But then she got sick and the medical bills." She choked on a sob. "I had to go back to Xynth to get money, had to agree to an arranged marriage. But he's cruel and old, and I just wanted to say goodbye to her first. Just one goodbye." Jake ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. He'd come here for a cow. He had a contract in his truck, cash in his wallet. This was supposed to be simple. But looking at Kira's tear-stained face, at the desperation and grief radiating from this girl who'd risked everything just to see her dying mother one more time, he knew what he had to do. "Come on," he said, standing up and offering his hand. "I'll take you to Denver." Her eyes widened. "You, what? You need to get to your mom. I have a truck. It's not complicated." He kept his hand extended. "Unless you'd rather walk 40 miles. But you don't even know me. You came here for a cow." "The cow can wait. Your mom can't." Jake smiled gently. "Come on, Kira, let's get you to Denver." She took his hand, her 6 fingers wrapping around his 5. Her skin was warm, warmer than human skin, and he could feel her trembling. In the truck, Kira sat pressed against the passenger door, her bag clutched in her lap. She'd stopped crying, but her eyes remained red and swollen. "Thank you," she said quietly as Jake pulled onto the highway. "You didn't have to do this." "Yeah, I did." Jake glanced at her. Nobody should have to face something like this alone. On Xynth, kindness to outsiders is seen as weakness. "Good thing we're not on Xynth, then." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "You're very different from the humans I've met. Most of them stare, some are afraid, some are predatory. Jake's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Anyone hurt you? No, but I learned to be careful, to stay hidden. She looked out the window at the passing landscape. I've been on Earth for 5 years, and I still feel like an alien, like I don't belong anywhere. Your mom brought you here for a reason. She wanted me to have choices. On Zinth, females are property. We're married off to increase family status, bear children, serve our husbands. Kira's voice turned bitter. She ran away with me when I was 11. My father was furious. He declared us both Tharnash outcasts. We could never go home. But you went back anyway. For money. The arranged marriage came with a dowry that would cover Mom's medical bills. She turned to face him, tears threatening again. I thought I was being noble, sacrificing myself for her. But she found out and she was so angry, said she didn't run halfway across the galaxy just so I could throw my life away. We fought. I left. And now she's dying, and the last thing I said to her was that she didn't understand anything. Jake pulled the truck over to the side of the road and put it in park. Kira looked at him, confused. Listen to me, he said firmly. You made a choice out of love, maybe not the right choice, but the intention was pure. Your mom knows that. Mothers always know that. How can you be sure? Because I watched my own mom die of cancer when I was 23. And the last real conversation we had was an argument about me dropping out of college to take over the farm. He smiled sadly. But you know what she told me at the end. That she loved me for trying to save the family farm, even if she wished I'd chosen differently. That love doesn't require perfect decisions, just honest hearts. Kira's face crumpled. I'm so scared. What if she dies before I get there? What if I'm too late? Then we drive faster. Jake put the truck back in gear and pulled onto the highway. But right now we focus on getting you there, 1 mile at a time. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Why are you doing this, really? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe because I know what it's like to lose a mother. Maybe because running a farm can be lonely and helping someone feels good for a change. He shrugged. Or maybe I'm just too stubborn to let a kid go through the worst day of her life alone. I'm not a kid, I'm 17. You're a kid to me, I'm 38. Kira laughed, actually laughed, and the sound filled the truck with unexpected warmth. You're not that old. Tell that to my back after a day of mucking stalls. They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Kira spoke again, her voice softer. Tell me about your farm. So Jake told her. About the 60 acres of pasture land, the small herd of cattle he was trying to build, the organic vegetables he sold at the farmer's market. About early mornings and hard work and the satisfaction of growing something with his own hands. About loneliness that ached some nights, but also about freedom and peace and the simple beauty of a sunrise over the fields. It sounds wonderful, Kira said wistfully. My mom always wanted a garden, something that was just hers, but we lived in apartments and there was never space. What did she do for work? She was a translator, spoke 6 languages fluently, worked for the immigration office, helping other refugees navigate the system. Kira smiled through her tears. She helped hundreds of people, made their transitions easier. And she did it all while raising me alone, dealing with her illness, fighting to keep us fed and housed. She sounds incredible. She is. Kira paused. Is, I don't know what tense to use anymore. Jake reached over and squeezed her hand briefly. Use whatever feels right. There's no rule book for this. They reached Denver Memorial Hospital with 20 minutes to spare before visiting hours ended. Jake parked in the visitor lot and turned to Kira. You ready? She shook her head. No. But I don't have a choice, do I? There's always a choice, but some choices are braver than others. Kira took a deep breath and opened the truck door. Jake climbed out on his side, intending to walk her to the entrance, but she grabbed his arm. "Will you come with me?" she asked, her voice small. "I know you don't know us, but I don't want to do this alone. I'm not going anywhere." They walked through the hospital corridors together, Kira's hand clutching Jake's arm. Nurses gave them curious looks. Interspecies friendships were still relatively uncommon in rural Colorado, but nobody stopped them. Sierra's room was on the 4th floor in the palliative care wing. Kira stopped outside the door, her whole body trembling. "She might be asleep," she whispered. "The medications make her tired. Then we'll wait for her to wake up." But when they entered the room, Sierra was awake. She was tiny in the hospital bed, her orange skin faded to a pale peach, her blonde hair thin and patchy from treatment. But her amber eyes, so like Kira's, were alert and bright. "Kira," she breathed. "Oh, my baby, you came." Kira ran to the bedside, collapsing into the chair and taking her mother's frail hand. "I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry for everything, for leaving, for fighting with you, for SHH." Sierra raised a shaking hand to stroke Kira's hair. "No apologies, not tonight. Tonight we just love each other." Jake moved to leave, give them privacy, but Sierra's eyes found him. "You brought her?" she asked. "She needed to be here. I just provided the transportation." Sierra studied him for a long moment, then she smiled. "You have kind eyes. Sit, please." So Jake sat in the corner while mother and daughter talked. They spoke in their native language sometimes, in English others. They laughed and cried and shared memories. Sierra told stories about Kira as a child, about the day they'd arrived on Earth with nothing but 2 bags and hope. Kira talked about school, about friends, about the life her mother had made possible. As the hours passed, Sierra grew weaker. The nurses came and went, adjusting medications, checking vitals. Around midnight, Sierra gestured for Jake to come closer. "Thank you for bringing her to me," she said softly. "But I need to ask something more. Anything. She can't go back to Zinth. The marriage, it will destroy her. She needs somewhere safe." Sierra's eyes bored into his. "Will you help her, please?" Jake looked at Kira, who was pretending not to listen. "I'm just a farmer. I don't know anything about immigration law or, about kindness, about doing the right thing even when it's inconvenient." Sierra squeezed his hand with surprising strength. "That's more valuable than any legal knowledge. Please don't let them take her back." "Mom," Kira protested. "You can't ask him to." "I can and I am." Sierra looked at her daughter. "Jake, can you give us a moment?" Jake stepped out into the hallway, his mind reeling. He'd come to buy a cow. Now he was being asked to, what, harbor a refugee, fight an interplanetary arranged marriage. He had a farm to run, bills to pay, a simple life that didn't include complications like this. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Kira's desperate face in the barn, heard her voice, "My mom dies tonight." He'd lost his own mother. He knew that grief, that hollow ache that never quite went away. And he knew with absolute certainty that he couldn't let Kira face what came next alone. When Kira emerged from the room 20 minutes later, her face was wet with fresh tears. "She wants to talk to you again," she said quietly. Jake went back in. Sierra looked even weaker, her breathing labored. "Kira is scared," Sierra said without preamble. "But she's also brave, brilliant, kind. She deserves a chance at the life I tried to give her." A tear tracked down her pale cheek. "Will you help her find that life?" Jake knelt beside the bed. "I have a farmhouse with extra bedrooms, 60 acres where someone could disappear if needed, and a stubborn streak that makes it hard for me to give up when something matters. She matters." Yeah, she does, Sierra smiled. Good, that's good. Her eyes started to close. Tell her. Tell her she was the best thing I ever did. That I'm proud of her. That love is never a sacrifice when it's freely given. You can tell her yourself when you wake up. But Sierra's eyes didn't open again. The funeral was small. Jake stood beside Kira in the cemetery, holding an umbrella over both of them as rain fell softly on the grave. A few of Sierra's co-workers came, some refugees she'd helped, but mostly it was just the two of them. "What happens now?" Kira asked when the service ended. Jake looked at this girl, not a girl really, but a young woman who'd lost everything and was still standing, and made a decision that would change both their lives. "Now we go home," he said. "To the farm. You help me figure out what I'm doing wrong with my cattle operation. I help you figure out how to stay on Earth legally. We figure it out together. Why would you do this for me? Because your mom asked me to, because you deserve a chance, because," he paused, then smiled. "Because I came to buy a cow and found something more important instead." Kira looked at him for a long moment. Then she took his hand, her 6 fingers wrapping around his 5. "Okay," she said softly. "Let's go home." As they walked back to the truck through the rain, Jake thought about fate and choices and how life rarely goes according to plan. He'd driven to Henderson's farm for a simple transaction. He was driving home with a daughter he'd never expected and a purpose he'd never imagined. And somehow, that felt exactly right.